millions of women and girls experience debilitating periods, yet nearly 1/3 never seek medical help. More than half say their symptoms are not taken seriously. Eilish Mccolgan, the Scottish athletics star, says it's important to speak out about the issues surrounding period pains. I spoke to her before we came on air.
As a youngster, it was just sort of something I felt like I just had to put up and deal with. And it wasn't really until I started going towards elite athletics and being a professional athlete, it really, really started to impact performance. And I suppose that's why I came out and spoke about it, because often people from the outside would just think you've just had a bad day, when actual fact it would be most of the time down to my periods and the way my legs were feeling. So it was just a natural topic that I didn't really think much about speaking about it until it sort of blew up on my Instagram when I first mentioned it.
I mean, it certainly did have an impact, you talking about it, and it just shows you how much of an issue it is and perhaps how little it's been talked about, Eilish.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. It's never really been a taboo subject for me, maybe because my mum was my coach. She was a professional athlete herself, so I've always had very open conversations about that. So it wasn't really until I posted about it and spoke about it that I realised that actually that's unfortunately not the case for a lot of other young women, and especially young girls who are going to their local athletics clubs. They sometimes don't feel maybe too comfortable having that conversation with male coaches or teachers or whatever it is. So it was nice to sort of let them know that it is a completely normal conversation. You should be able to talk to absolutely everyone about it, and also just trying to help educate some male coaches within that as well, because there's a lot of people that do genuinely want to learn about the topic and how do we balance the menstrual cycle with regards to performance, and are there things we can do to sort of just try and aid and help these youngsters on their way.
And the reason we're talking about it today, Eilish, is just sort of reacting to this survey of women and girls. Nearly 1/3 never seek medical help for debilitating periods. More than half say their symptoms are not taken seriously. Are you surprised that that's still the case?
Not particularly. I just think if I go by my own experience when I was much younger, I mean, there would be times I'd be rolling around the floor and vomiting and in real amount of pain. But I would never, ever have thought about going to get medical help for that. It's just almost like you just feel like you have to deal with it and just get on with it. Take some painkillers and go and lie down and have a sleep. Like it never really occurred to me even that I really should be getting that sort of seen to, and maybe there were options to try and help calm that sort of, or settle those sort of symptoms. There's so many different contraceptive options now, not just pills, but there's patches, there's coils, IUDs, there's so many different things now. And I suppose when I was growing up, I just didn't really understand it all. I didn't really know the ins and outs of everything. So I think it does really come down to education.
And is that something perhaps we need to do at a younger age, and for boys as well as girls?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's really important. These young boys are the ones that are growing up with sisters, partners, mums. They may be working with young women later in life. I've had so many athletics coaches who are male message me over the years to say, they don't know how to maybe start these conversations with the youngsters they coach. And of course, everyday life, it's even more frustrating and debilitating for some people. But certainly in sporting terms, it's nice to at least be able to give people a little bit of advice. So I think it's just important education for both men and women at a very young age.
That's Eilish Mccolgan speaking here, the Scottish athletics star. Well, in response to the survey, Wellbeing of Women has launched its Just a Period campaign, which aims to address the many years of medical bias, they say, neglect, and what they're calling the stigma in women's health. Professor Dame Leslie Regan is chair of the charity.
I think it's so important to talk about periods and how girls and women can manage them. And I'm so excited that we're launching this Just a Period campaign, because I think what we've all got to remember is that this shouldn't be a taboo subject, because it's an everyday occurrence, and that most of the girls and women you know and I know are going to have 12 periods a year for nearly 40 years of their lives. So if they're not able to get on with their job, I mean, in Eilish's case, It's compromised to sometimes as an athlete. Or if you can't go to work in an office because you're frightened of flooding or you're in pain, we can't afford to allow women to suffer these problems unnecessarily, because as Eilish beautifully pointed out, there are so many ways that you can treat women for period problems, or even render them not having to have periods if that's a particular necessity for a period of time. I just want it to be something we talk about all the time.
Are you surprised by some of those findings that I asked Eilish about? And why do you think there is a lack of awareness, not just among the public, but among some medical professionals too?
Well, I think that historically, periods were something that you didn't talk about. You know, remember in the old days when they were referred to as the curse, as if it was a bad thing. I just think that historically it's been a taboo subject. And I think as a result of that, we haven't educated people enough about how very normal it is to have periods, and how when it's not quite so normal because it's painful or heavy, that we need to teach girls and women how to go and seek help for that.
And on a very practical level, what are some of the tips on how to get the most out of seeing your GP? Indeed, what people should do if they feel that they have been dismissed by medical professionals?
Well, my suggestion is you go and talk to them with just a few notes, just on a little pad or whatever, or on your phone, and you say, look, I don't think this is normal because I'm not able to go to work, or I'm not able to go to school, or I'm in pain so much of the time I'm always taking tablets for this, I'm flooding. I just hope that we can get to the point in the future where it will be quite common for any time a girl or a woman goes to see a healthcare professional, whoever they are, that healthcare professional says, oh, and how are your periods? Because it's such an easy problem to solve. I mean, every year I see as a gynecologist lots of women who come from the gastrointestinal, the gut doctors, who've been investigating them for anemia or, a low blood count. And nobody's asked them, are you having heavy periods? And surprise, surprise, if you lose an awful lot of blood on a regular basis every month and you're not putting it back sufficiently with your diet or your supplements, then you do become anemic. And it's extraordinary that in this country, with an NHS free at the point of delivery, we're not able to get women the help that they need. So that's what this campaign is all about.
Professor Dame Leslie Regan there, who's Chair of Wellbeing of Women Charity. The time is just gone 5 o'clock.